Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I was wondering, one thing that's interesting to me is that, how do y'all work with the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce? We have a real active chamber here, and I noticed about the same time that we came up with our new branding that they had come up with their own logo also, and it was the arrows. And we talk about confusion. I know you talked about confusion at the very beginning of this presentation. I'm a little confused of why we didn't somehow mesh those efforts together. Could you expand on that, please?
I don't know that I have 100% of the answer on that, but the fact of the matter is you do have a tourism entity in Visit Pensacola, and you do have a chamber entity, and you do have this entity, and everybody is still, again, because it's new, still a little bit doing their own thing.
From my brief time here, it's clear that this city doesn't always play nice together. And maybe it needs this. It needs some kind of an effective program that then we can show that there are some actual results to be garnered from it, and then, you know, invite others to become a part of it. It's a multi-step process, though.
Well, you know, and thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I appreciate that. But let's rewind for a second. Did we ask them, or did we just go out on our own and just hire this agency? I mean, we include them in the initial discussions with this. I mean, were they included, or we just on our own just went out and hired these and never even considered the chamber? I mean, I'm a little confused there too. So help me there.
First of all, there are some similarities in the branding. If you look at the shading of the different color schemes, you know, that kind of does come together. But to answer your question is that, you know, by that, I believe at that point, and that was before I was here, but I believe at that point, from what I understand, that the chamber had already been well involved in their process prior to us making the decision to move forward. But I can certainly get more information and find out exactly what the timeline is.
And I appreciate that you came in a little bit late. And, you know, to me, it just would have made a lot more sense if everybody would got on the same page. But I'm being redundant now, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few questions and some comments.
Perfect.
Well, you haven't heard what I have to say yet.
No, it's perfect that you've got questions.
Oh, okay.
Bring them on.
Thank you. Do you know where Pensacola's core business district is?
I think it depends on what kind of business it is.
Okay. Let's say commercial.
Well, if it's maritime oriented, it comes into the port. I mean, again, it depends on whether it's warehousing and it's by trains, so it really depends on which entity it is that you're trying to affect.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is Pensacola's core business district is what's referred to in our comprehensive plan as Uptown Pensacola.
Right.
If you look at our comprehensive plan starting on page 57 to page 173, Uptown is mentioned numerous times. That's the area where our airport is. We have a state college there that has 10,000 students. We have a major employer there that hires 1,000 employees, that Sacred Heart Health System. We have the best mall anywhere from Destin to Mobile. That is a prime destination, especially for the military, young men and women. So I guess in this small, compact area, we have all of this tremendous growth. When I see this article here, I think I'm offended by it.
Okay.
And number one, it implies something that isn't true. Most of the economic development we've seen has occurred in Uptown without one dime of government subsidies other than the airport. I mean, it's an economic engine that doesn't quit. Now, when I see this article here, it's clear to me that this is about promoting one person. And when I read this byline here, punchline no more. The City of Pensacola altered its governing structure in 2009, which I very much supported, after a tumultuous and somewhat leaderless decade. Now the city thrives under a strong mayor. The reason I'm offended by that, as I look around this table here, and the people who this is referring to are sitting around these tables. These were the leaders under our previous form of government, which, by the way, has not even been in existence a full 2 years. These individuals put that park across the street. That doesn't say lack of leadership to me. These people on this council here created the revitalization in downtown Pensacola. This revitalization didn't start 2 years ago. It's been a process that's been going on for quite some time under this leader, this leader, this leader, this leader, that leader over there, Mr. Hall, who isn't here, and that councilman over there, Larry Johnson.
Ms. Councilman Myers,
I'm just saying, I don't like the images that are being...
understand, and if we could, keep a...
Okay, let me finish.
That, I'd appreciate it.
Let me finish. We're paying them a lot of money to brand Pensacola, to tell Pensacola's story, and they're proud of this story here. I'm not. And I think that we need more inclusion in this process of branding and telling our story. Quite frankly, I have received a lot of complaints from citizens regarding the slogan, Upside of Florida. People don't understand what it means, and it has a negative connotation to some people. People feel like they've been left out of the process. People are concerned that their City of Five flag image is gone, that the community has not been included. And I think I would like to see a story that's really and truly more reflective, number one, of the truth and how our community feels at large.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think Councilman Spencer had his hand up first.
Spencer?
Hard to follow that gusto. But I do want to share that I thought today's presentation was extremely educational and enlightening for me, and I consider myself to be someone that I thought I was on the leading edge of understanding public relations. And Councilwoman Myers I consider her to be a comrade, and we are often involved in spirited debate, and we'll go toe-to-toe all the time, as you know, when it comes to my zeal for the unique qualities of the city as opposed to being blindfolded and spun around 360 degrees in a suburban mall parking lot and saying, guess what city you're in. So I'll always be a little bit biased to the parts of our community that are uniquely Pensacola, and will always be bullish about featuring those and framing, again, those parts of Pensacola that no one can replicate.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And I'd like to thank the Zimmerman agency team for making the trip over from Tallahassee and putting together this presentation on such short notice. I appreciate your efforts today. And, a great deal of my concern that I brought up on last Wednesday night during our budget hearing had a little bit to do with the presentation that you gave, some of the risk-taking that you said you would do, because it is something that has never been done before, and CEO branding was mentioned, and that the mayor is the brand, and that was of great concern to me. But I did have a few questions for you, and then I have some comments for council that I don't expect you to answer. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. So I did want to know, though, because it was mentioned in the presentation, one of the most important parts would be local support. And in the presentation, there was a local person to be involved. and as I understand from a records request, they are no longer involved. And that was one of your main, I think there were 8 points that you made at the end of your presentation. So is there someone local that is coordinating and is your ground support that you said was so critical?
Well, it was never a local person that lived here. It was just the fact that we have different people that went to school here. Jill, for instance, went to school here. They were never going to be here full-time, just to make sure that...
Well, Ms. Birdwell sat in on your presentation and was to be the local, the ground support that I believe in the presentation you pointed to her.
I don't know who Birdwell is. I don't know who Birdwell is.
Okay, but, well, okay, then maybe it was a different presentation from a different Zimmerman agency, but local ground support was important. It was one of your 8 key points, so I'm just trying to find out if you have someone from Zimmerman agency that is in Pensacola doing work.
No, we don't have a full-time person here.
Okay. And then another concern was the cost. I know you had a previous contract with Okaloosa County TDC, and the total cost per month was $25,000, and that was an entire county's tourism efforts. And we are a small city of 52,000 people, and we are paying considerably more on a monthly basis. And I'm trying to understand the economies of scale there, or this return on investment that you're talking about. Why is the city of Pensacola being charged so much more?
It's a little bit, we can probably get your document better than we can explain it, but the fact of the matter is that was a base fee that they paid. So every time we placed media, we got a commission. Every time, in other words, by the time it was all said and done, it was a lot more than what that fee was. So our creative got charged, our PR got charged, everything was on top of that fee. So it's, you're not really...
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
yours is all inclusive of everything. So... yeah, we don't have to get commission on anything, we don't charge creative, everything is included in yours, whereas Okaloosa County's was a 100% different setup.
Okay, and then I know that there is an RFP in the Okaloosa County, the TDC just closed. Did you respond to that to work for the Okaloosa County TDC?
Yes, for tourism.
Okay. I'm greatly concerned about that, and I'm not going to state any more about that with you. I just will talk with council about that, so I'm not directing my comments at you.
Okay.
I'm just going to discuss it with council. My concern there, to call it tourism or to call it economic development, tourism is economic development has tourism involved in it, and to have someone that close in proximity to us that the Zimmerman agency is marketing as well, I feel is in direct competition with us. It would be like having Coca-Cola and the Pepsi account, or the Budweiser account and the Miller account, Burger King and McDonald's. It just doesn't make sense that we are paying on a monthly basis to be the upside of Pensacola, and then right next door the same agency is marketing Okaloosa saying come see us. I realize a lot of it is the storytellers and the business that we're trying to attract. But when you look at the website, it's the fly-to information, it's the bands on the beach, it's all wrapped into one, and that is a great concern for me. And some of the things that I brought up to council last Wednesday that I do want to make sure you understand, one of the things was this issue in Okaloosa County, and it's an active investigation, and that's why I'm not questioning you directly. Because I don't know.
Why don't y'all sit down? It seems like this is going to be a
That's
little...
what I meant, is that I'm done.
No problem. No problem. We're right here for the next one that has a question.
Sit at the table here.
Got it. And was the yacht purchase, and I actually have obtained that from the newspaper over there, and it's of great concern to me, the controls, the accounting controls and procedures that we have in place, and that something like that cannot happen here, because all of this came to light after the contract that we had signed by the mayor on March 1st. This happened in May. That, a yacht was part of a branding campaign over there for tourism, so they bought a $710,000 yacht. Ironically, became direct competition with someone they could have called up and said, hey, do you have a boat that you could donate a weekend to, or could we pay for that weekend that is part of this? So I'm not sure what that focus was, and I don't know what the approval process is going to be for future marketing endeavors, that we would need to put that in place as council or see it put in place as a recommendation from staff. And again, is this appropriate use of our taxpayer dollars, that we have a CEO branding program on our website for Mayor Hayward? Actually, in the second paragraph, it says the mayor also serves in an unofficial capacity in guiding local economic development initiatives, leading legislative advocacy efforts, and speaking with other elected officials. So this is not a official capacity that the mayor serves in, yet we have ended up with these the branding campaign and this cost on a monthly basis and the annual contract that we're doing. And we have paid professionals, and the entire, I can't say entire, but the private sector that has invested in 2015 at the Chamber that is ready to go engage in economic development, and we're not even in sync with that agency. And then we have the tourism agency that's not a part of this either. So I'm concerned about the dollars being spent, the alignment with others in our community, the return on investment that is so vital to the success of this. And, you know, those are my concerns. And I don't know that they'll be resolved here today. There's a great deal of information that I would still like to have on how the choices were made. One of the parts of the presentation was how important it was to market our enterprise operations, but not a single department head for those enterprises was at the presentations. And I don't know if they were consulted with the video later on to have some input into the enterprises that they're responsible for. It appears this is an economic development effort for CEO branding, and that's what was sold and bought by the mayor. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilwoman Brett.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. First, comment to Councilman Spencer and Councilwoman Myers. I, too, love downtown, the unique aspect, but I will tell you that when my husband's extended family comes down here and stay at the beach, they want to get to that mall and go shoe shopping. And so there's room for all of us here. So anyway, first, I want to say that it seems you guys have been hard at work, lots of product placement. You know, the campaign's very modern, sleek, Madison Avenue. It's very professional. But my problem is I don't see much of Palafox Street in it. You know, we're a unique community with a lot of assets. And my first question is, why do we need to build ourselves up by putting others down? And I think about Dr. Wu going to Florida League meetings and having to face colleagues. And, you know, I just think we're better than that. We have enough that we can vouch about our city. The wave, I think we've all heard comments about that. You know, it's the centerpiece of this new logo. But we're not just a beach town. And ultimately, I don't know about you guys, but when I think of waves in the city of Pensacola, I think of hurricanes, and that's not a good association for me. I don't think it's a good one for many in this community. One of the things that has bothered me is early in the big branding shindig, one of the big ideas that was put forward was putting logos on the water towers. I don't think many of you know that there was no permission or pricing gotten from ECUA at that point, and that idea would cost $500,000. And so, you know, someone didn't do their homework on that. The presentation included that this campaign is not really about the local community, but the local community, the city of citizens and city of Pensacola is our core. And you know, I go to the Facebook page with posts about bands on the beach, but nothing about evenings in Old Seville, or the Twitter exchange about oyster restaurants, but no mention of our local asset, our city assets with oyster restaurants. You know, we saw that TV ad. I don't know if any of you have taken a close look at it, but it seems that whoever made that doesn't quite know where Pensacola is. If you look at the map, we're sort of not the upside of Florida, but the downside of Alabama, Mississippi. And that concerns me, that they wouldn't have been able to find that. I'm glad to hear it's editable, and I hope you will quickly fix that error.
It's actually already, was already fixed, actually. It really was, we looked at it again this morning when the subject came up, I think. It was about 1/4 of an inch probably west of, you could argue about where it was. It's actually a very big circle on that map.
Well,
But it has been shifted over, and that's already been.
well, for those of us who know where Pensacola is without an issue, that was sort of surprising. Yeah, I'm going to tag on to what many of you have said. You know, why are city taxpayers spending money to duplicate the efforts of Visit Pensacola, the TDC, or the Chamber's recruitment efforts? You know, these things should be a regional effort, and you know, going our own way is not really a good way to play nice. It's, I think, important for us to work with the other stakeholders in this community to promote this community as a whole. We can't stand alone, and they can't stand alone. It should be a team effort and not just about the city of Pensacola supporting it. Thank you.
Councilman Gerald.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And I'd like to thank the Zimmerman team for being here this afternoon, because today you're hearing some things that you need to hear. And I'm, in some circles, considered a person with many words. And then there are opportunities when few words become appropriate. And from what I'm hearing, we have a marketing mess. We have a serious disconnect, because we invest money in the other agencies, the TDC, the Chamber, and others. And what I'm hearing here this afternoon is just a mess. I'm deeply insulted by the article. I've been on this council for the past 12 years, and I don't like being referred to as being a part of a leaderless city. It was this council who asked and got in place a review of the charter in the first place, because we saw what the needs were, and we addressed them. And now we are in a situation where we are adjusting to a new charter, to a new form of government. That's one point. So we have a mess on our hands. And it's going to require all of the players to come to the table and identify their roles. What are you going to do to solve the mess? A few years ago, when we were working with a consultant who had provided us with a review of what was going on in the city of Pensacola, I had a specific question. And in that question, I named the players. And I asked the consultants at that time to give me some feedback on their experience in dealing with cities who had multiple players all attempting to play the same game. And as I recall, the gentleman, before he answered, he swallowed. He looked around the room, and he simply stated, it's problematic. And essentially, that's what we have here. Now, to switch gears, I believe it was either 07 or 08 when the former group that was attempting to do partially what you're doing to market the city of Pensacola, they did a video that included African American representation in about 4 to 5 seconds. And as I look at the staff and I looked at your presentation today, it appears to be moving along in the same track, as if we are not here, that we don't exist. And some of you may attest to the fact that we had our 100-year celebration, our fraternity did, and we invited people from all over the country to spend a 4-day weekend in the city of Pensacola, a black fraternity, by the way. And I think they left about $3 million here in a 4-day period. But what I don't see is your ability to reach out into the African American marketing community to let people know, and I don't know if you have the proper vehicle, and I doubt if you will unless you have that African American involvement, just not in the pictures and so forth. But you're going to have to go, and I don't think you know the hood as we do, to put it bluntly. So you're going to need the assistance of African American magazines and marketers who will help you identify those areas. And to me, it's really not a color thing. It's a money thing. And if people are in a position to come here and spend money, then they need to know that the city of Pensacola and its nice beaches and et cetera, actually exist. How do you plan to reach out to that market without including certain individuals who are more familiar with it. And later after this meeting, I have a recommendation that I'll get with you folks and make. But we have to have the ability to reach out to all markets across the board. And to conclude my comments at this time, we all have to look back, and when you pick up a newspaper, we know what writers do. Sometimes they write information when they have no clue. Sometimes they put their propaganda and the slant on it to play a game. And it always has, to me, subliminal messages that are going in multiple directions. I know what they're doing. I've been reading newspapers for a little over 60 years. So I know the process and what articles have a tendency to do. It has a direct attention, but the writer of that article has no clue as to what's going on in the city of Pensacola, and you can tell that by the article. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Any other comments by council? Audience? Ms. Mackey, and then Mr. Dubuisson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President and Council. You knew that I could not resist coming up here at this presentation. I came to this meeting specifically for this presentation, and just so the Zimmerman Agency knows, I am a former city councilwoman, and I have a small local advertising agency, so I understand the business on a much smaller scale, of course. I want to say some complimentary things. First of all, certainly I think the city benefits, and I'm impressed by the depth of the public relations contacts and the depth of what the agency here has accomplished. Certainly, certainly better looking than what I've seen a little bit of in terms of the actual hardcore advertising creative that I've seen today. And, kind of piggybacking on what Councilwoman Myers and Councilman Gerald said in terms of the content of the one article that Councilwoman Myers showed me, I don't fault the Zimmerman Agency for that. And I think we all understand, I don't mean to be insulting, but let me bring up, I sometimes talk in cliches, garbage in, garbage out. They worked with what they were given by a click, okay? And we know there has been a click here, period. And it's got to go beyond that. So I hope that we will get beyond this to tell a more inclusive, diverse, culturally rich story and stop beating up on people, okay? There's no need to, just as Dr. Pratt said, there's no need to beat up on other parts of Florida to make ourselves look good. There is no need to beat up on people in this community who have given a lot in order to make one person look good. Okay. And finally, if this agency, I would like, a little message to the agency. I would recommend 2 pieces of reading because it's very obvious that the great depth and breadth of their experience is in the corporate world. Cities are not corporations. Cities are not corporate entities. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would recommend to you 2 very easy reads, but I think that they may help you see the heart, soul, and spirit of what cities are. Number 1 would be the book For the Love of Cities by Peter Kageyama, and the other, The Seamless City by former St. Pete Mayor Rick Baker. I think there's a lot to be learned about cities and their genuine spirit from those 2 books. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. Mr. Dubuisson.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to say hello to the Zimmerman Agency again. I believe I heard your presentation when you folks presented to the Chamber, when Chamber was looking for its representation. Unfortunately, I was unable to view your city presentation because that was a closed session. And at the time that that particular review was going on, there was a lot of community angst about exactly which direction we were going. I compliment you on the quality of your work, and you certainly have gotten a lot of bang for the buck so far. And I just appreciate all of council's comments. You've all raised issues which many citizens have been dialoguing about, from the moment the new logo was rolled out to the disappointment of some people that a heritage was being lost and the idea of creating a new contemporary image, to the very fact that we are a bay community. We are not a beachfront city. We may be part of a larger beach community, but we are a maritime wharf, port, solid land community, and that does not get translated with the current logo, and a lot of citizens have repeatedly brought that up in conversation. Piggybacking on what former Councilwoman Mack said, this is a city of neighborhoods. Besides the many successful businesses, we have some of the most diverse and richest historical neighborhoods, contemporary neighborhoods, and ever-changing neighborhoods in the entire nation. We run the gamut of ages, of incomes, and of talented citizens. And I don't see that so far in any of the publicity that you have shared with us. And I would hope that you could focus on that. And you might begin by attending the Council of Neighborhood President meetings and having some input from real residents of Pensacola as opposed to people who visit Pensacola. And maybe even have one of your local connections work with the neighborhoods so that you can understand where the pride of Pensacola and why people have moved to Pensacola could be reflected. I understand that you're going after the new development and you see a certain image that you believe will sell Pensacola, but I think what the citizens of Pensacola are concerned about is that you may be repackaging Pensacola to be something and you may be losing Pensacola in the process. And we love Pensacola as it is and are proud of it as it is. So I would encourage you to re-explore what Pensacola is. But again, the quality of what you're doing is exceptional. And Council, I appreciate your honesty and bringing your true feelings forward to the community. Thank you.
Mr. Duvall, Council, I think we need to wrap this up.
Can I say something?
You know we have our budget meeting Wednesday, and I would suggest to you that if you have some specifics as relate to this, that I would hope that you will call Mr. Reynolds and see if you can get some clarification, because then that's when we're going to, I suspect, going to finalize this particular action. So I want to express appreciation, okay, to the Zimmerman Agency and Ms. Zimmerman for you coming and giving your presentation.
Can I say one thing?
Councilwoman Meyer wants to say one other thing, and then I'm going to let you say what you like.
Perfect.
Please.
First, I would like to let the Zimmerman Agency know that I am very impressed with your professionalism and the quality of your work. And my comments should not reflect in any way on your capabilities. And I realize that my problem is not with you, okay? I just want you to understand that I hope you didn't take my comments personal, because you do very good work. Also, I wanted to assure Councilman Spencer that I love historic neighborhoods. The neighborhood I live in right now is the youngest neighborhood I've ever lived in. I've always lived in historic neighborhoods. I have...
Do y'all want to clear that up later?
Yeah, no. I just don't...
Kiss and make up.
I just want the public to understand that I'm not anti our historic district. I love our historic district, and that's one of the things that makes the city of Pensacola so great and unique.
You cannot rebut that. I will not. Ms. Zimmerman.
If I can, first off, thank you very much.
Please talk in the mic.
Sorry?
Talk in the mic so we can...
I've never had anybody say they couldn't hear me. I was actually trying to whisper so I didn't blow your eardrums out.
It wasn't me.
Oh, that's not a problem. No, I will not, I promise, begin to address everything that's been said. And more than anything else, honestly, I absolutely adore the passion that everybody has for Pensacola, period. There are too many communities that we do work with, because we do work with a lot of cities, that it is just about, let's be slick, let's not even care who we are, let's create and fabricate something. And hopefully you heard us repeat that over and over again, is you have something amazing, we just have to do a better job of sharing it. Now on that note, just like which neighborhood to promote, you will be the politician of the world if you've ever figured out how to make everybody happy. It won't happen. With destinations that we work with, you get a Wall Street Journal story talking about the amazing culture, and the people that have beach activities, the people that are history, are all upset. You're never, especially when it's storytelling, no one will tell all the story every time. So we just have to be diligent to make sure the facts are correct, and know that for every time we talk about one entity, there's going to be another story that might talk about architecture, and another story that might talk about sports, and et cetera. So we will not serve all kings and gods at one time. I wish we could figure out how to make that happen. There has to be a marriage, though, with keeping the passion and the history and the preservation of who Pensacola is and the promise of who Pensacola can be. And I don't think those have to be two things. They don't have to be two things. It's not an easy thing to do, but there has to be synergy going forward on where you're going to be 30 years from now and 40 years from now, and it doesn't mean that the passion for your history, the passion for the Five Flags, the passion for everything that you've been has to go away. It just means that we have to retool it into something that is relevant to a lot of the people today. Because you can continue to attract people, but it has to be continued to attract more than what you've been getting. And I think that's our role and responsibility. It's not easy, but it's hard to do. And someday we'll talk about the yacht, because we were 100% against that and had nothing to do with it, just so you know, because it drives me nuts. Anyway, thank you very much. Again, we've taken everything you said. We appreciate it. And we just, we've got a job to do, and we want to make sure that we're doing it with everybody's input as much as possible. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.